In today's episode, I want to talk about one main key subject in particular, which is the illusion of fear that we put in place over ourselves and preventing ourselves from doing certain things, saying certain things, and ultimately believing certain things. So, I want to talk about this illusion of this cage that we essentially trap ourselves in due to our own fears, our own insecurities, our own societal pressures that we see that is put on us. But I want to come at this from the point of view that, because I think this is a very, very common experience and feeling that a lot of people have. And the more you build this fear, the more that you exacerbate this illusion of this consequences that may happen, these consequences, these repercussions, it reinforces the fear. It strengthens the fear into further stopping you from doing what you may think is truly right, what you may know is truly right, or ultimately just freeing yourself from that, whatever that is, that fear that's stopping you. And I'll use an example. I'll use my own example. I believe it's good to use own personal examples to, I guess, give connection and give a reasonable path to where I'm coming from. But I always had this fear of speaking about different subjects, of telling personal stories, personal experiences, for many different reasons. Whether that's seeing social media and the internet saying like these are the things you can't say, these are the sacred cows, you can't make fun of this, you can't express your displeasure for certain ideologies or certain things going on in the world. So it's kind of like a line or a cage is drawn. And I would say most people, maybe not most people, but a lot of people are right at that line. They're right at the verge of stepping over into freedom, essentially, crossing that threshold, crossing that line of saying what they actually think, saying what they actually believe, regardless of consequences, regardless of negative opinions possibly coming back their way. So I would characterize myself for a lot of years as I was on the line of caring what the perspective of me would be, caring about potential opinions, caring about potential names I could be called, and ultimately not wanting to be called these things or viewed in this light because I'm not those things. But regardless of that, if you aren't those things, if you aren't what people tell you you are, if you aren't what people call you you are, it doesn't matter if they call you those things. I think it would matter to you and it would actually bother you more if you actually were those things compared to if you aren't those things. It's easier to set aside those negative people who will impose upon you their values and their views and their beliefs of you rather than if they actually talk to you to get to know and understand what those views are. So I've always been at this line, this precipice of wanting to express things, wanting to say things, wanting to disagree with a lot of things, but fearing consequences that may come back my way. Consequences such as, you know what, if I go and disagree with this, could I lose friends? Could I lose a job potentially? Could I lose family? And yes, these are very potentially over the top examples of what could happen. But these are in today's day and age, saying certain things, believing in certain things can definitely have these negative connotations and these negative consequences pushed back on you without question. This is the reality. But recently, I would say I stepped over this line of fear I crossed into an area that I no longer fear what could be said about me, what could be believed about me. And I don't know if it's, I don't know what got me to that point. I think a handful of things got me to that point. I think one, due to my life with mental health situations and mental illnesses, I react to life in a very different way. I have a, I guess you could say, a shorter tolerance for being in a situation that I don't want to be in, whether that's impatience, impulsivity, but I have a harder time staying and doing things that I know could be detrimental to me and that I know just on a deeper intuitive level aren't sitting right with me or aren't being beneficial towards my health or my life. And I truly do think that comes from, I guess, a deeper intuitive feeling to the world that if I see something wrong, if I feel something wrong, it's almost unignorable. Maybe for some people it's easier to step over those things or continue ignoring them to move on with their lives and push aside these things. But to me, I find that's very hard. I've done that in the past, and I find it creates terrible, terrible consequences, terrible health repercussions that implode essentially these trapped down feelings or emotions that if I know something's wrong, if I know what I'm doing in my life is wrong, if that's a job or a behavior or certain lifestyle habits, if I know these are wrong, it kind of it builds so strong inside of me that it implodes on myself. So with that in mind, and with having these past experiences of that happening to me and ending up in a very negative, unhealthy situation multiple times over, it got to a point that it's, do I continue living out those same patterns, knowing that that pattern is there, knowing that that pattern exists that I've gone through before, ignoring it and letting it play out again, or saying, no, I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm going to express myself. I'm going to say the things I need to say and do the things I need to do, regardless of any consequences, because I know what can happen if I don't do these things. So I think that's what kind of broke the doors open, you could say, and got me over this line that was there stopping me, this imaginary cage that we trap ourselves in, that helped me burst through that onto the other side, because ultimately I don't want the same things to end up in the same health situation, the same depressed, suppressed anxiety situation due to purely not being able to speak and express and vocalize the things I need to and want to. That's in a simple form, that's what it came down to. But I believe a lot of people are on this line. Here's the line. I'll give a representation of visualization. So here's the line, and there's thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, and they're right at the line of stepping over, of crossing over into freedom, of saying what they want, living a life they want, but they've made that cross, that journey through that threshold to be something so big, so, I guess you could say, unimaginable, unachievable. They've made this journey in their minds to freedom unrealistic to them, or they've made the fear to be. And I was the same. I do it too. I even do it now in a lot of ways. But the fear of what could happen to truly say what you think or to truly live a life that you want because of possible repercussions stops people from just doing it. And an example I guess I could give is like even in, I guess, post World War II, when Germany was split up into East and West Germany and the Iron Curtain was there from the Soviets and the communists, when people started fleeing from East Germany to West Germany and they're risking their lives, they're risking everything to get to freedom, essentially, climbing the wall, doing whatever they can. They were willing to take the risk for a better life, for freedom, because they knew where they were at that time. And yes, this is a severe and drastic real life example that I'm giving, but I believe that that's those people, the initial people that make the move to do something like that, it inspires and influences others to come along and say, you know what, the consequences are there. This may be incredibly detrimental or impactful to my life in a good way or a negative way, but ultimately it's worth it and I'm going to do it. And it liberates them in a sense of that mentality alone to go and even have those ideas and those thoughts that, oh, it is possible that I may be able to live a better life. Seeing other people take that step and take those chances. So the more people that are willing to speak up about whatever they think is wrong, not even what they think is wrong, what they truly know and believe in their hearts is wrong in this world, to take the courage, to take the strength, the discipline, the intelligence, and say and do what you know is right, will liberate more and encourage more people behind you to do the same thing. So with that in mind, that has also helped me in a lot of ways to keep that in mind, that not only will it liberate myself speaking and doing what I know to be right, it will hopefully liberate others along the way, especially in the world of mental health and mental illness. When you go through your life experience, probably a very negative life experience, and then you're left in a situation figuring out where do you go from that point on in life, figuring out, okay, what's next in life, where can I go? I now have this label, I have this diagnosis, it looks like the world and the cards I've been dealt is stacked against me. How do I navigate that now? So navigating that is hard. It is hard. It's an uphill battle. It truly is. Getting told you're mentally ill or having something wrong with you, and then having to figure that out and fight through those opinions of the world and the narrative that has been built around the people that go through this system, to then fight into something you're proud of or a message that you're proud of sharing, is hard, but it's doable. And that's part of what this show is, and part of what my goal is in doing this show is I chose essentially as a sacrifice, and this is a message that I think Jordan Peterson talks about, or he used to talk about. It's choosing a load that is heavy enough to carry, that you can carry, that is manageable to carry, but is worth carrying. So, like choosing a burden or something worth sacrificing to carry and move in that direction of your life with that in mind. So I guess I chose to sacrifice myself. I'm going to sacrifice myself my identity, my image, not in the entirety of that, but I'm over doing this show, and over time I will have a library of information about the world of mental health, the world of psychiatry, from a non-biased, non-incentivized person that is truly speaking about the things that maybe a lot of people aren't willing to speak about because of the narratives built around them, or the names they may be called or associated with, the crazy, the insane. And that's the part that I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to sacrifice that part of my image, or that part of my identity, to be called insane, to be called crazy, to be looked at as those things, in hope. And not in hope, I know this will pan out. It's not even pan out. It's like saying it'll pan out in the future. To take away from what it is now is the wrong idea. But to sacrifice a part of me that may not like the idea of being looked at as crazy or insane, or used to fear that idea of being looked at as crazy and insane, to say these things and do these things and to push new ideas forward, is more than a valid, more than a worthwhile sacrifice in my eyes. Because there aren't a ton of people who defend the mental health, the mentally ill. It's the narrative is you're crazy, you're insane, you don't have much to offer this world. We have been suppressed, we have been diluted, we have been medicated into versions of ourselves that now fit into this system and fit into this world without us being a big nuisance or a big distraction or irritation to the world. We have been medicated and indoctrinated to the point that now you will fit the system without being so problematic. So me getting over, and it took a lot of years. This is the point in the portion that took a lot of years for me, is, and I think it comes with age, I guess. It comes with experience. Because being a little younger, maybe I cared a lot more about what my image is to other people, what potentially your friends or like the groups could think of you. But as you get a little older, you realize that doesn't matter. You realize that purpose and meaning in something is more important than potentially being looked at as like crazy or insane. So ultimately, getting over that is a huge step. Getting over that it doesn't matter what people think of you. It doesn't matter if they think you're crazy for thinking you can change the world, or crazy for thinking you can change a system or fight a system, no matter how big. That doesn't matter. Those people don't matter. Your opinions don't matter. You're a sad, depressed, low intelligence thinking, pessimistic human, and a waste of energy and a waste of oxygen with those thoughts and ideals. And not only that, imposing those thoughts and ideals on someone who thinks they can do great things is even more of a waste to society, I would say. So, yeah, this idea of, and you see, I mean, I spent a lot of time on Pinterest, which, yes, you could say that's gay. I like Pinterest, okay? Shoot me. I like Pinterest. Pinterest is awesome. It's good for quotes. There's a lot of good quotes on Pinterest, but I saw one that it's a bunch of birds and they're in a cage, but the cage is just open and the birds aren't flying away because the idea that it's their cage, it's their home, instead of flying away to freedom, they're used to that cage. There's also other ideas about this. I think there was one example of they put fleas, I think they were fleas, in an open environment, and they let them jump to a certain, and they saw how high the fleas jumped, and then they put them in like a box and they let the fleas jump and then they took the box away, and the fleas would no longer jump past the height of the box. So the idea that we cage ourselves in, the idea that we put limitations on ourselves, and it's not only that we do it to ourselves, a lot of the time it's society that does it to us, and the internet. And but if you truly have the belief, or I guess the lack of care, to say, you know what, I may struggle for years. I may be looked at as the insane whatever. And it may not work out at the end of the day. The goals, the aspirations, whatever you have, it may not work out, but if you're willing to even try, I think that is more meaningful and more purposeful than a life that your soul is dying eternally because you're more fearful of the opinions, or more fearful of things that may not even happen, things that genuinely may not even happen. Yeah, so that's one idea, or one topic that I really wanted to hit on, because I think that one's so important. And you do hear people talk about this idea, and they can kind of sound repetitive, that like, oh, you need to be disillusioned, or you need to be so what's the word? What is the word I'm looking for? Not disassociated. Delusional. You need to be so delusional that your dreams and your aspirations, you can get there despite everything. The delusion. Be delusional is what everyone says. It's like, sure, be delusional, but have a plan, have some sort of a blueprint to get there. Whether you want to share that plan with everyone or the world, who knows? But yeah, that is me crossing the line. I'm crossing the line and saying and doing what I want, because I think also the longer you wait and the older you get, the harder it will be to take a chance. Because now I'm fairly young, 25. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. The responsibilities of taking care of other humans isn't in my immediate presence. I'm in a selfish state, you could say, that I have all this energy and time to pour into something that may be unrational or may be unreasonable, but in the long run, hopefully it pays out. There's also, I think it was Naval Ravikant. I don't know how to say his last name, but he said, I think it was him, but someone said they're talking to their kid, and their kid's questioning what they're going to be when they grow up, or what kind of job, and the kid's stressed about it, and the dad says, like, don't even worry about what you're going to be or what your future looks like. You'll probably end up doing a job that doesn't even exist yet. You'll probably end up being something that hasn't even existed in history before. And I really like that message. Because you can grow up and kids will have the aspirations of, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be, and you see videos that are some really funny ones. They're kids like, I want to be a variety store worker, I want to work at McDonald's. Anyways, but ultimately, as that young age of a kid, you don't even have the wherewithal to say or to think, you know what, I'm going to be something, or I want to do something that doesn't even exist yet. And then you get a little older, for me example, or you get a little wiser or more mature or courageous maybe, to veer off into doing something else. How many people would have thought being a content creator or a streamer or a top like how much, you know what I mean? Who would have thought, yeah, that's a viable job? And then even in 5 years from now with AI, I don't even look. Let's try and think of a few AI jobs that maybe like just straight maintenance AI robots. That's more of like a maintenance mechanic. You'll just change from like a car to AI robots. AI is so scary. AI is so scary. And I don't think enough people are thinking about AI. That's not also, so I was talking to my friend last night about this. We're in a state right now of the world that AI, whether we like it or not, is going to change the world drastically. Some people haven't come to that understanding. Some people maybe are ignorant to that fact, but it's happening. It's going to happen. It's already happening. Even the amount of time that I spend talking to ChatGPT and using it, and even my mom, her using it for her creative aspects. So the amount of time and energy already being put into this new life form, I guess you could say, is going to change the world. But I think people aren't spending enough time considering that whoever is in charge of the major governments or whoever has power, whoever has influence at the time of the full, I guess you could say, like birthing of sentient AI intelligence, they are just going to be rocket space catapulted into another realm of influence and power and wealth. It's just gonna double, not even double, it's gonna like 100 times, 100-fold whatever their influence, whatever their power status is. So if you think about like government, the people who are bringing in AI, the people that are in control at the most top of power and hierarchy while AI gets brought in, the level of control is going to be exacerbated to a point that the common man having like any thought of potentially like breaking into that system or making an impactful change or influence to that system is gone forever. And I don't think enough people are aware of that. That's the reality of what's going on right now. And it's scary. Because if those people who have the ultimate power and the ultimate control of that system have any leanings or inclinations to not doing what's best for humanity, or not doing actions and speaking with God in mind, it is going to be so detrimental, and it's so scary. It's so scary. Even the people building the AI, whatever their intentions are, whatever, I think even their unconscious on a deeper level will be brought out into developing the AI and it being molded. So whatever is in the creators of AI, whatever is in their deep subconscious, it's going to be brought out into the design of the AI, whether they know it or not. So even if they aren't pure in their hearts and in their minds, it just has, there's just so many potentials that I don't know. It's just, the potentials are not good. I don't see a world in which AI makes the world a better place. Because even I see the conversations and the debates about people won't have to work as much because AI will create this utopia of not needing money and wealth or whatever, so people won't have to work. And then you're left with the problem of all of the time that's left over for not having to work anymore. And I think the people that already have the predisposition to be sucked into just the lifeless doom scrolling or the lifeless couch rotting, that you're sucked into the world of dopamine and not really, I guess, a huge amount of purpose and meaning, that will just increase. You'll just have more time to do that. So I guess the problem that people will have to figure out with having more time on their hands is truly finding creative outlets. For people who already have creative outlets that just wish they could have more time to put into the creative outlet, it'll be beneficial for them. It'll be helpful and reasonable to those people. But to the people who don't have a lot of creative outlets, I think it'll be more of a struggle with less work. It'll be just more time to sit around. So I think of AI, and this may be a science fantasy version of what I see happening with AI, but I see it as this final battle. It's like this final battle playing out for control of power and influence at the very end, before AI reaches like the pinnacle surface of no going back. Because who's ever in control of influence, power, money, status at the time of the birth of the AI, there will be no going back ever, or those people of influence and power will never lose that control. So it's kind of like, if you think about reincarnation, all of the reincarnations of humanity, all the gods, Christian, soldiers, all of these different ethnicities, all the reincarnations are put in right now to battle out who is going to be in control of the AI and the power and influence at the birth of the AI, is kind of how I see it playing out in a science fantasy world. Or is it science fantasy? But ultimately with that, the mystics, the wizards, the mages, the magicians, they're all coming to the final battle. Everybody's coming to the final battle. Everybody has to come to the final battle. And I might lose some people there. I might lose some people with those ideas. But that's what I think is going down. That's what I think is going down. There wasn't a ton of interesting stuff that I've seen over the last few days to comment on, or I do think I'll talk and get into a lot of some of the stuff I read about in terms of health or psychiatry, because honestly I track it back past, like, I guess you could say, creation of science, and even how older societies and civilizations dealt with these different states of consciousness and madness, how shamans of the natives dealt with the craziness and the mania, how the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, looked at it. Because I think a lot of that has been erased. Not erased, it's still there if you want to search and find that information. But a lot of the principles, or how they dealt and integrated the people who went through these life-altering situations, the integration that we have now is inhumane. Because and it's I didn't realize this for a long time. It took me a long time to realize this. It's due to the nature of our society, the industrialization of what our society is. We're not integrating people with mental illness and mental health into society to be the best, healthiest, happiest versions of themselves. We're integrating them into society to be a reasonable, to just not be a nuisance to society, is what's happening, because the industrialization is profits, profit margin, quotas, hit bigger quotas, and you need everyone to fall in line with that system. So it goes with the kids of ADHD, kids with attention span problems. It's like, no, they don't have, not everyone has a problem, but the more labels, the more diagnoses you make and fit into the DSM-5 book, the more people then fit in line with the system of industrialization and profit margins and work 9 to 5. So I don't know how you change that. How do you change the entire system of the current world to have a better, healthy life for people? Yeah, that's a hard realization that I came to. Because ultimately, spending time in nature, doing arts, being creative, being expressive, communication, family, friends, community, meditation, exercise, these type of things are what help people. These types of things are what ground people and bring true meaning, true happiness, true purpose, with a list of a lot of other things. But that isn't those things. If you can't find a career in that specific lane, you're forced into something else that isn't that will be detrimental to you. So it's how do you solve that? How do you solve that? We'll figure it out. We have to figure it out. We have to figure it out, or more and more and more people will just be medicated. More and more and more people will just be forced to be medicated, forced to be blunted and dulled. And it's also, I think, the medication it's a way of enslavement, essentially. Because if you can medicate someone out of emotion, out of enthusiasm and excitement for things, and joy and purpose and connection to things, that's one less person that is going to disrupt the current state of things or disrupt the apple cart. But if you have tons and tons of people who, and yes, I guess I don't want to, if you have tons and tons of unmedicated people, that's a nuisance to society, sure. But if society was built upon not just having a job that's 9 to 5 and profits and more profits and more profits, that was more sympathetic and leaned more towards what was best for the actual nature and well-being of people, I don't think everyone would need to be medicated to begin with. So there's that little that little I don't know. I need more topics. I need to come in here with a whole bunch of topics that I'm going to talk about. That I'm going to talk about. A whole bunch of them. Or else I just sit here looking at the sky. Looking at the sky. Wishing it could all be mine. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to mention. One thing that I thought was very curious. And over time, when I build this content library, and I will get better at talking, I'll get better at being more enthusiastic and entertaining and exciting that will draw people into me talking and doing this show. It's interesting and it's difficult at the current state of things because no one watches. So I have nothing to interact with, or it doesn't even feel as if anyone's watching. It just feels as if I'm talking to a camera. But ultimately, if I wasn't live streaming, it'd be the same thing. I would just be talking to a camera. So I need to work on and keep that in mind, that the expression, the emotion, it needs to be there regardless of anyone's watching, because eventually people will be watching and people will see and hear the message. But in me building the library and the archive of all of this information, all of the stories that will come out of the mental health, the psychiatry, and then with the help of AI, I want to build like a catalog that you'll be able to see all the different topics, and then it'll be all the information will be there on all those different topics from my perspective, or not even my perspective, from other people's perspectives as well, that maybe have similar ideas, maybe have differing ideas. That's okay. I'm not opposed to conversations and talking to people who not only disagree with me, strongly disagree with me as far as my ideas and what I think could and should happen. I'm not opposed to hearing other ideas, because the more open I am to everything, the more I learn. It's about learning at the end of the day. If I'm so close-minded towards, yeah, my idea is right, you're wrong, regardless, even if you bring persuasive and intelligent information to me, and I'm so stuck in my ways that I can't see that, that's no way. You don't grow that way. You don't evolve that way. You can't be so stuck in your ways that you stay in that state. So, and I think that's the problem that we've got into with identity politics and just how the world works in general. We pick teams, we pick sides, and we're no longer willing to hear the other side out, or just we automatically demonize and set aside the other side's point of view on things because we make them out to be the enemy, and it's destroy the enemy at all costs. And that's no way of growing and adapting and evolving your ideas and your opinions of things. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about, which I thought was interesting. I'll have to find it though. Maybe I should have done this before. Maybe I'll do this. Actually, I won't do this in this show. I'll do it in another show when I lay out the information a little better, because when I read through the Canadian Mental Health Act, when I read through it all, there's a lot of things built into it that they're built into it, I guess you could say, that detrimentally stop the people that are being subjugated to it. I don't know how to explain it. An example I'll use is, I've read through the Mental Health Act, and there's a portion, I think it's in like 76 or something, but they're describing a patient in the hospital, and the patient is refusing medication. And the patient that they're talking about uses um uses a book as an example. See, I can't even remember. This is what I hate. This is a big problem I have right now. Is and I think I'm aware of this because I'm an introspective, intuitive person. I'm very aware of what's going on with how my body's reacting and how my brain's reacting to things at all times. And a certain dose of medication doesn't allow my brain to work properly. It becomes very forgetful. And especially in terms of language and memory recall, it becomes very, very frustrating and difficult. I'll be speaking and I'll need to draw upon information that I have or knowledge that I have, or specifically certain words, and they just don't come. It just blanks. And I say this because lowering medication allows that to be better. So the higher doses of medication is almost just like, it's like knowing that you have more horsepower under the hood, but not being able to access it. And yes, more horsepower comes with potential negative symptoms in other scenarios, but it's frustrating to know that you are capable of more and doing more, but not being able to access it, but it being right there. And you know what's stopping it from being turned on. That's frustrating. What is the doctor's name? Let's see if he'll come to me. Um, I think I have his book. I have some of his books. Oh, yeah. So in the Canadian Mental Health Act, in the one portion or the one section, the one they're talking about a patient, and he's arguing for himself. And his argument that he's using is that he read some of a doctor's work and some of his books and some of his research. And the doctor's Peter Breggin. So the patient is quoting and using that as his defense. But the problem with them using that in the Mental Health Act and saying and showing that that's a sure sign that this patient is sick because they're using this doctor's work is like, it's like an extra layer of defense to demonize a patient for drawing upon information that goes against normal protocol. It's like they've already built that into the defense of the system, into the Health Act, that pulling upon doctors or people that disagree with the system is automatically dismissible. So I read that and I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting that they build that in already. And I don't know if that's their purpose. I mean, probably. I would say it's probably the purpose of it, but that's okay. Let me find what it is. Let me go find. I think it's section 76. I believe. We'll see. We'll see if my memory's good. It's not great. Section 76. Hmm. Hmm, 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 hmm. Can't even find the thing I looked at before. Here, I know where it is because I looked at it on my phone. Okay, here we go. What? Yeah, it would have been a lot more beneficial to get where I got it from before starting talking about it. That's okay though. Doesn't matter. It's the truth now. I just spoke the truth into existence. It's kind of how it works. It's kind of interesting that I think about, and I think this is why this is kind of a new thing that's happening with society in regards to the, I guess you could say, the state or government and their news channels losing influence to independent media is that before, whatever the newspaper, whatever the TV said was the truth, obviously. But now, in people with their own influential media stations or media channels, can openly and willingly say whatever they want, and it kind of, whether it's true or not, or it's based on reality or not, gets molded into the truth. For example, if you say Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan has a view or an opinion on something, and he says it on his show 800 times, it kind of, enough people hear that message, and they repeat that message to other people, or they believe that thing. So now that is kind of their reality of that thing he's talking about. Or he can even bring on doctors that believe that narrative or that thing. So, and that's just one example, but it's kind of just like reality isn't even built on truth anymore. It's built on influence, I would say. It's built on someone's opinion of something or belief of something, and if enough people believe in the same thing or get behind that idea, that's kind of what it's kind of like manifested into reality. And even you can present the truth to someone. You can present hard evidence. Can you guys hear my chair? Both hear my chair. But you can present hard evidence of something, the truth, and someone still will deny blatantly being wrong because they're just so stuck in their ways. And I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating to think why. To bring forth information, undeniable information, but people still won't change their views or perspectives on things. What in human nature is that? Is that like a fear of... I think it's like a domino effect that changing your belief or your reality on certain things may have a domino effect that changes everything. It's almost as if the first domino falls, everything else will fall after that. So all of your beliefs have to fall after the first belief falls, which honestly is what kind of happened to me in a lot of ways. After going through psychosis, anything I thought about what the world was, anything what I thought about reality as a whole, completely dissipates, completely goes away, and I see the world and experience things completely separate than how I ever did before. Truly just based on the fact that once you see things, it's like you can't unsee them. Or what do they say? It's like once you put on the glasses, you can't take off the glasses. And that's not like a virtue signaling, like moral high ground to like say you see things differently. But it's just like there's more to reality than what meets the eye. It's in the eye of the beholder, they say. But yeah, psychosis was just like one of those things that just broke down every barrier of reality. How you interacted with things, how I felt things emotionally, even how I experienced other people's emotions and fears and anxieties in my vicinity. Oh man, it was so cool. It was so cool. And I think integration of experiences like that is so important. It's so important not only for healing and to not be fearful of it anymore, but if you can take an experience that was so life altering and changing and try to integrate whatever you think happened or whatever you felt in that state of mind into now, I guess, a more grounded, stable state of mind, I think is so positively impactful to bring those stories, those feelings, and those, some people, I don't know what you could say, messages, not messaging, but like you're like tapping into a different state of reality. So the way you consume information and knowledge, not only knowledge, but just the world in general, is a completely separate thing. So to say that that is complete madness, or to completely set aside and ostracize that state of reality, I don't think is just. I integrate them. I don't say that that is any lesser or any worse than this. I say there's benefits if you can integrate back into this more firm, grounded state of reality instead of completely ignoring and fearing whatever that state was. I guess you could say.